All right. So today I thought I would record something talking on the topic of what are some of the most common healing mistakes that I see people making. So why you're struggling to heal, even if you've done brain retraining programs, even if you've watched all the Red and Eagle videos, even if you've read lots of like self-help, self-healing books. What is from my perspective the common mistakes that I see people making. So use this video even if you find yourself making a lot of these mistakes, and there's a good chance you will, because I think at different stages of the journey we'll all kind of fall into these traps, and that's part of the process, is kind of being willing to be aware of our own traps and whatever. So if you do kind of find that you're making a lot of these mistakes, cool, use that as a great tool to help you to be more aware and know that you're not alone, and this is a chance for you to kind of make some changes or something like that. So don't become despondent. And that kind of leads into the first point that I want to make, is that the number one thing that I see people struggling with when they're healing is being too hard on themselves. And this is something that I had to really work on in my own healing journey. It was one of the most transformative aspects of my healing, was working on self-compassion and releasing self-criticism, self-judgment, self-hatred, all of these things. And I think it's so common, with people that I've spoken to that are working through similar things. Being too hard on oneself is such an easy trap to fall into when you're trying to heal, because you're trying so hard to heal yourself, because you've seen that, you can't just wait around for somebody else to heal you. And that's important as well. Maybe you haven't come to that place yet. Well, then you should, because that's really key for me, is you can't wait. It's not about waiting, right? It's beautifully empowering when you realize that you can heal yourself. I'm recently reading some of Joe Dispenza's work, and it's incredible, some of the stories he shares. Deeply inspiring to see people recover from cancer, from horrific autoimmune illnesses, through really finding an inner drive in themselves that's rock bottom, they're done, and miraculous recoveries. So let's actually say that step one is taking responsibility for your own healing, realizing that you can heal yourself, that truly believing that healing is possible is huge. So if you don't believe that, then find inspirational stories. I recommend Raylan Eagle's YouTube channel. There's so many people who've recovered from so many different illness variations and different states and different lengths and different severities. So it's truly possible. This is the book I'm currently reading by Joe Dispenza. There's a lot of authors out there who write from a scientific perspective. I would recommend his work. I've only just getting into it. A lot of people have recommended him to me, and I kind of been aware of his work, but I think it's great so far. So, it's truly possible to heal through mind-body healing techniques. If you don't believe that, then, I'm not here to convince you. I can speak from my own experience, and if you really want to heal, you can find the evidence out there. So that's really key, being open to miraculous healing. So that's step one. And step two, I would say, is being too hard on yourself and trying to force yourself to stick to super rigid discipline. It's funny, because another point I was going to make is consistency is really key. So an element of discipline is important. You can't be doing all the wrong things and then complaining that you're not healing. I've been in that place before, and I think many people that I see talking about their chronic illness on the internet, like on forums and stuff, are doing that, right? You're complaining about your symptoms, but that there's things that you could do that would help maybe you don't know about it. And then, that's why I try to share information, and there's other people that do the same thing. So, for me, I would say like being willing to actually make the changes that you feel that you should. Like for me, it always would come down to, and I can still notice it if my nervous system kind of gets overwhelmed, it's about cutting out distractions, right? And screens is number one, and screens can be very overstimulating. So for me, it's about that. And then, meditation, right? Doing the actual inner work is so key. And for me, it's like a combination of allowance and brain retraining, because you want to not fight with your emotions, but at the same time, you don't want to keep fueling negative thought patterns. You want to really see how those are spiraling you and actively kind of make the decision to shift your perspective on things. I often speak mostly about the allowance aspect, but reading Joe Dispenza's work now, where he talks more about like the neuroplasticity kind of stuff, it is super key, and it was a good reminder for me that it played a huge role in my journey, that I really had to put a lot of work into getting out of this entirely depressive doom and gloom outlook that was going to carry on spiraling me downwards, to really taking the reins and doing kind of brain retraining work on thoughts. And then I know people get stuck with brain retraining sometimes, because then there's emotional work that needs to be processed, but you can do that in a balanced way without getting stuck in it, if that makes sense. So total allowance of everything is a massive component of what I share. And it was very helpful for me, but at the same time, it can become a way, you kind of got to balance it, and you're going to have to feel it for this yourself. If you're just feeling overwhelmingly negative all the time, then you really do want to put some shift into maybe some more gratitude work, maybe cultivating positive emotion. I did a lot of work around that myself. And it's been a good reminder for me recently as well. Like I've gone through some phases which have been pretty challenging. And that's why reading Joe Dispenza's work recently was quite nice. To realize that you do, incredible shifts are always possible, and you're more empowered than you realize. And the more you read about other people's journeys, that can be a massive inspiration for yourself. So don't be too hard on yourself. Really love yourself, like that, for the challenge that you're facing, right? You're facing something challenging, but are you going to let it break you? Are you going to fall into victimhood? And you have to be willing to decide that that's not what you want. I think I can only say from myself and from other people, I'm sure, that you have to go, like you're only willing to really do the uncomfortable work once you've really seen how dark it gets, if that makes sense. When it's like you go into victimhood and helplessness, but you completely identify with it, and then you can have like suicidal thoughts. And then for me, the big shift was like, well, fuck, I'm not going to kill myself, so I have to make a change. And that's the key, right? So it can get very dark, and sometimes that's what we need to really force us to make a change, if that makes sense. So if you are in a very dark place, like I hope that this can be inspiration and motivation to know that you can change your circumstances, right? It's as intense and as challenging as it is, it's not hopeless. Sure, you might have to navigate incredibly intense terrain, hopelessness. It might take longer than you'd expect. All of that is true. Yet, if you really are fed up with your situation and you're willing to make changes, then change is possible. So that's another key that I would say is you have to really want to change, honestly, and you have to be really willing to make changes, to not just stick by the same, avoidances and distraction behaviors and then moan that you're not changing. I'm not trying to, I'm saying this with compassion because I've been there and I know how our minds work, right? That's what we tend to do. It's just hope that things are going to get better. So obviously be compassionate with yourself. You're not going to be perfect. That's key. You're not going to be perfect, but you can, it's been clear for me when there's times when I'm willing to actually change things, and it can take time, but things do change. And there's times when I'm avoiding and distracting, and then start to get fed up with life. And then if I really reassess, then it's like, okay, I need to change things. So you have to be willing to change. You have to be willing to release identities, right? This was something good in Joe Dispenza's book, actually, was speaking about how we get addicted to stressful states and emotions. And it's very true. It's the same with negative thinking, right? I would tie them together. It's like all of the chemicals and hormones and neurotransmitters and just kind of the neural pathways that you're feeding, right? We can get incredibly addicted to a doom and gloom, stressed out, negative spiral. And it becomes our default mode, right? When something is challenging, then we immediately go into this state. And it's understanding that it's an addiction that you need to break, right? And it will take some work. It's not just going to happen from watching one video, but one video can be the start of a powerful path as well. So, it's a balance of, it's not like you're screwed, but you have to be willing to make consistent effort to change. So that's where the brain retraining stuff, I think, is really key, is like actually empowering you to change out of those addictive negative pathways, right? So for me, initially in my path, it was more the lightning process and Phil Parker's work, which was like a light bulb moment for me, right? There was part of me that was resisting it and skeptical and all of that, but there was a part of me that really knew that what was being said was true, that it was like, if you're walking down the street and you're looking everywhere, if you're looking through the filter to see everything that's black, you're going to see more black things than if you're looking for something else, right? That's a good indicator of how we look at life through a stress negative filter, and you're going to see constant feedback to feel that. That's just one example. So to go back to where I was going with this video around like mistakes, another one that I would say is consistency. And with consistency, again, finding the balance between not being too hard on yourself is the key here. But consistency is really important, right? So maybe you're not perfect. Maybe you don't get everything right all the time. But if you can really find some consistency in doing some inner work like meditation and brain retraining, that's when things can really change. And that was the case for me. When I went through a period where I really committed to letting go of all my distracting habits and giving myself fully to whatever it took to heal. And that meant I was spending a lot of time each day doing brain retraining recordings for myself, doing brain retraining journalings. I was doing compassion meditations. I was doing total allowance. I was, I just gave my everything to healing and doing the healing myself. Before that, I was researching healing. And that's all the phases, right? So, like if you're doubtful, then you probably need to read some more inspirational stuff around mind body healing, because it does work, right? It truly does. So here's a starter. If you're skeptical, it works. Honestly, there's so many people who have recovered. So if you want to recover, it's possible. But read Joe Dispenza's work. Read there's countless books, and then there's consistency to actually being willing to do the meditations, do the work. And I think it's a combination of allowance and gratitude and positive emotion. I don't talk about that enough, but I'm going to start to more. I mean, we'll see. Who knows what I'm going to talk about next? But currently that's been more in the spotlight for me, because it's been an important phase for me to focus on again, is just meditating more and getting in touch with gratitude and positive emotion, and how that shifts the physical state compared to fueling your body with stress hormones. Powerful healing happens when we enter into these positive emotional states or deeper meditative states, right? The chemical cascade that this releases in your body. I don't have all the science here in front of me, but I know enough from my direct experience of how I healed from really severe symptoms, being completely debilitated, and that completely changing. And in reading, again, I'm going to keep referring to Joe Dispenza's work, because I always refer to whatever I'm currently reading. I like to kind of share the insights I'm gaining from it. And his stuff is cool because he looks at the scientific and the mystical stuff together, and the healing. And he's changed a lot of people's lives. So I mean, I would say that's it. And maybe last thing is like mindset and letting go. So are you truly willing to let go of your sick identity? More than just your sick identity, your identity as the one who can't heal, the one who is, fucked, to put it bluntly. Again, you kind of often have to process the dark stuff, because that has its place, but then you really have to be willing to not want to shift out of that, to really wanting to shift out of that. And it's not about going back to who you were. It's opening up to a new self, a more authentic self, a trusting, opening up in a sense, and letting go is key in this as well. You're really willing to let go. And then mindset. I mean, this ties into what I was saying earlier, but if you're really going to look for problems everywhere, you're going to find them. And if you're going to start to shift more into looking for opportunities, looking for solutions. I mean, this was something that I kept on reminding myself when I was doing most of my healing, which was so helpful, was to see every symptomatic experience as an opportunity. I really trained this into my brain, where it's like every time I'm having symptoms, like, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity for me to heal. I used to go into like all these negative spirals, and I was like, that's why I'm stuck, So I did a lot of work around the brain retraining, and really convincing myself that every symptom was the chance for healing to happen. Then I would sit and meditate and feel into it and welcome it and explore what is happening, and shift from resistance into allowance and gratitude. And again, you're not going to be perfect, right? The whole point of this work is you have to go through the nitty gritty. You have to feel into some uncomfortable stuff. But if you orient towards gratitude, if you orient towards opportunity, it's a huge difference. I mean, here's something on my wall I used to have stuff like this everywhere, but I wrote this for myself, and it says, you can't see it, it's going to be backwards, but it says, meet every experience with love, kindness, and gratitude. Everything is an opportunity, right? And that can sound kind of cliche or whatever, but I mean, it actually works. The more I wrote this kind of stuff for myself and trained that perspective into me, it stuck. And then you can go through fluctuations, right? That's kind of what I've been going through recently, was like, you get back into real life and you just do whatever the fuck. Or maybe not everybody does that, but that's what I did. And then maybe you have a flare up or things go wrong again. And then it was like, okay, let's go back to all of the basics. So it's good. It's good for me to share as well, because I'm more in touch with the feeling of crashes again. And it humbles you, and it gives me more compassion for the people that are in those spaces. But at the same time, it's a good reminder of how much it is a personal choice, honestly. Yeah, where I've been avoiding things, and then it's like, okay, I'm really not feeling good, so I need to make some changes. But it's okay. I'm going a little bit off topic here, but last point is, the shift back into the right path is never far away. You just have to be willing, and you have to make some serious changes, potentially, but you can shift quite quickly out of certain states if you're really willing. And specifically if you've done it before, right? So if you've had good phases and then you find yourself in a difficult phase, if you really are willing to work through some stuff, you can change again quite quickly. Nothing lasts forever. This too shall pass. Okay, that's all for today. Good luck. Sending love, and most importantly, I want you to know that you can heal. Change is possible, and yeah. All right. Good luck.